Hey, guess what's happening on this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with your friend and host, Oscar Camejo.
When you or your loved one were first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, did you accept the diagnosis as simply something that was bound to happen? Perhaps you may have a family history of diabetes and you figured, well, I guess it must have been my turn to get it. Well, today, folks, we're going to dive into a topic that may be controversial, but it does hit close to home for many of us. It's the misconception that diabetes is predestined for some of us due to our family history or ethnicity. At the beginning of my personal journey towards better health, I remember wondering if there was anything I could have actually done to prevent type 2 diabetes. After all, when you're constantly asked about your family history, when you go to the doctor, when you go for checkups, and you read a bunch of literature that proposes that African Americans and people of color are at a higher risk of developing the disease than other ethnic groups, it can actually affect your beliefs about the possibility of turning around your own health. But let me tell you something, my friends. I love research, but it never, ever sat well with me whenever I came across certain studies that implied that Black people and people of color are genetically more predisposed to developing type 2 diabetes than other communities. Wow, today's show is going to be a great one. Let's deal with this topic once and for all. Now, I know it can be controversial when we talk about health and wellness for certain groups of people, certain communities, but you're going to enjoy today's episode. So stick around to hear the rest of today's episode. What people of color should know about diabetes. You don't want to miss it. Let's go. Be sure to visit the website at www.beatingdiabeteslifestyle.com for access to free resources and other information that will help you along your journey. If you would like to submit a question or a comment about the show or to learn more about the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle, you can always email me at hello@beatingdiabeteslifestyle.com. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this podcast. Welcome to the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with me, your host, Oscar Camejo. My goal is to help diabetics and non-diabetics make lifestyle changes to reverse type 2 diabetes. Folks, thank you for tuning in every week. I really appreciate you guys checking out the podcast. Wherever you are in the world, regardless of your background, thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know how you got here, but folks, I am glad that you're here. By the way, I would like you to visit my website for a free resource that I put together to help you when it comes to shopping for food and making better food choices. I remember when I started my food turnaround, if you will, my diet turnaround, my health turnaround, but I wish I had a resource like this. It's called the Healthy Grocery Shopping Guide, the Fruits and Veggies Edition. So go ahead to my website and download it for free, guys. All you have to do is sign up to receive it and it will be yours right away. So let's dive into this week's episode. Let me say this first and foremost. I am not a physician. I am not a scientist, even though I wish I was. But after having met people of various ethnic and cultural backgrounds who are diabetics and experiencing common health issues related to type 2 diabetes, it makes sense to me that this disease doesn't play ethnic favorites. Type 2 diabetes is not an ethnic disease, folks. In fact, it is reported that diabetes is one of the fastest growing health emergencies worldwide, which is affecting the lives of people from diverse backgrounds. And this is according to the International Diabetes Federation. They put out a 2021 IDF Diabetes Atlas. And I mean, they talk about diabetes, type 1 and type 2, all around the globe and what's happening. So that tells me that framing the increased risk of diabetes among African Americans solely in terms of genetics, and I'm also talking about people of color as well, that it can be misleading and potentially reinforce certain stereotypes. The risk of diabetes is not exclusively determined by specific genes, and there are no single diabetes genes that only affect African Americans and people of color. I'm not saying that genes don't play a role at all, but what I am saying is that diabetes is a health condition that can be influenced by a combination of multiple factors, including genetics, lifestyle, and the environment. So the focus should always be on the importance of overall risk reduction, healthy lifestyle choices, early detection, and having access to appropriate health care for everyone, regardless of their ethnic background. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, now that that's been cleared up, let me share a bit of my own personal story. When I was a 268-pound diabetic, I had reached the worst state of my own health. It was the worst that I've felt, the worst that I've experienced in my entire life, folks. Like many diabetics, I was dealing with medical complications regardless of my race. This included chronic fatigue, which is not culture specific. I was dealing with frequent urination, which has nothing to do with race. I was dealing with blurred vision as a diabetic, which has nothing to do with my culture and my background. I also had elevated blood sugar, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, which had nothing to do with me being a person of color. It all had to do with what was going on inside my body, regardless, and things that I was neglecting. And I eventually had to come to terms with the fact that I needed to make a change. But you know what? Since then, I've lost over 80 pounds and I'm no longer required to take diabetes or high blood pressure or cholesterol medication. And I'm glad, folks. You know, when I first went into the hospital, my A1C was 12%. Folks, it went down to 5.5% in less than a year after changing how I ate and how I exercise and did a whole bunch of other things to really get my health back in order, to get my health back in shape, if you will. This happened because I made the necessary changes to improve my overall health, folks. I can't stress it enough. And as a result, I am no longer sick. I am no longer on meds. I don't know what your culture is. I don't know what your background is. I don't know where you grew up, how you grew up, but I do know that the lifestyle changes we make can absolutely position us to tackle diabetes head on and beat it. Diabetes does not have to win. Now, I know some of you all have different situations going on. Maybe your diabetes is more advanced because of just time has gone on and you're experiencing different effects related to type 2 diabetes. But I do hear reports of people turning their lives around and they have been able to just feel better and look better, all because they made a decision to take back their health. And that's really what I want this episode to be about. It's about you taking back your health and beating diabetes. Now, that doesn't mean you become this award-winning athlete or supermodel or whatnot. No, I'm simply talking about taking back your health. If I can do it, you can too. So let's move on. I want to focus on 5 key areas when it comes to living healthy and positioning yourself to achieve better health. Now, this is regardless of your race, regardless of your culture, regardless of where you come from. These are 5 key areas that I believe anybody can put in place to really take back their health. Number 1, nutrition. Diet plays a significant role in the development and management of diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes. Think about some of your favorite meals and things that you drink on a regular basis. Do they include foods high in salt, sugar, and high carbs? Now, again, I'm not just talking about how you eat during the holidays and special occasions. I'm talking about everyday food choices and the things that you put in your body on a regular basis. We have to consider how our normal day-to-day food choices and drink choices may be contributing to obesity, elevated blood sugar levels, and other factors that put us all at risk for type 2 diabetes and keep us unhealthy. Personally, I recommend prioritizing adopting a balanced diet that includes plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. That's how I live, folks. That's what I recommend for anybody because it's something that I've put into practice. And I know if you put into practice, you will get positive results. And let's not forget, we should also reduce the consumption of sugary drinks, alcohol, fast food, and highly processed foods, which basically, folks, have no real health benefits. Why? Because they typically lack the nutrients that our bodies need to thrive. I did a podcast episode that was really focused on nutrition and giving our bodies what it needs and not what it craves. You may want to go back and take a look at that. I have an entire library of episodes that I think you may want to check out, folks, on different topics when it comes to health and nutrition. Now, let's talk about another crucial factor. Number 2, exercise and regular physical activity. Some people, when they hear about exercise and regular physical activity, they're like, oh, man, I hate going to the gym. I hate it. My knees hurt. My back hurt. It's just really just takes a lot out of you. You know, how can I lose weight without having to go to the gym? All right, folks, listen, as a global community, regardless of your culture or race, we should all strive to move more and move better. We sit down too much. If we work from home, we're sitting at the computer. Or maybe you're not working from home, but you go to a regular office. We sit down too much. At my office where I go to work, I actually have a standing desk, and I'm pretty much standing most of the day because I want to keep my legs strong. I want to not sit as much, you know? Physical inactivity, folks, or being way too sedentary is a major risk factor for diabetes. We need to be moving more, folks. We need to be moving better. Regular physical activity can help us improve insulin sensitivity, promote weight loss, and reduce the risk of the effects of type 2 diabetes. Listen, I love moving. I love movement. It's something that I've realized that in my own personal life, and I've seen in the lives of other people, the more you move, the more flexible you can become, the more mobility that you can achieve, the better off you will be when it comes to your health. And it helps you to just feel better about yourself. So, hey, if you're not already moving or moving that much, it's time to lace up those sneakers and get those steps in. Do what you got to do. Now, you got to start somewhere. So start walking or start jogging daily. Start swimming. Start cycling. Start going to the gym. Yeah, the gym. Or working out at home. Start doing aerobic exercises. Start stretching every day. Do something, folks. Work on improving your overall flexibility. Listen, I'm not saying that you have to be like super, super flexible. I'm just talking about if you want to get rid of those aches and pains, the solution is to not to move less, but to move more and strengthen your body, folks. Remove any barrier that perhaps is standing in your way of moving more and moving better. Remove all the excuses, folks. Trust me. I know I used to wear knee braces when I would go walking or hiking, when I would go work out in the gym, because my knees used to ache. You know, when I would try to do squats, I would hear that pop and crackle. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that popcorn crackle that happens in your knees. I used to feel it in my elbows and all kinds of stuff. It was because I was dealing with a lot of inflammation, which tied back into my nutrition and the things that I was eating, the not so good stuff. So let's not make it complicated. Please don't spend too much money or a whole bunch of money on these fitness programs that promise you the world. Keep it basic at first and then build from there. Trust me. Let's move on. Number 3. Health screenings and early detection of diabetes. You know, a lot of people don't like going to the doctor. They don't like getting bad news. None of us like getting bad news. But we have to stop avoiding going and seeing our doctor or even going to the clinics. I know access to health care may be very limited for some people, but I'm telling you, there are free programs and lots of programs that can help you get your screenings done so you can know what's going on in your body. Regular health checkups are important. Regular screenings are important. Contact your local clinic to find out what's going on. Don't be afraid of it. Some of you who may be just kind of skeptical about the medical profession, I get it. But listen, medicine, as far as the medical profession, is not something that we should completely avoid. We shouldn't. We need to know what's going on in our bodies. There are people who genuinely care about your health and well-being, and they're not going to steer you wrong. So don't let a few bad apples spoil the whole bunch. So again, regular health checkups and screenings are critical for early detection of diabetes and prediabetes. Early detection can lead to better management and improved health. I know people who they went years and years feeling bad physically and just ignoring the symptoms, ignoring what was going on in their bodies. And they just never went to the doctor and things just got worse. So especially guys, stop being chicken and go to the doctor. Go see what's going on in your body. Okay. Again, early detection is the key. Let's go ahead and manage what's going on in our bodies so we can achieve better health. All right, number 4. Now, this is important, folks. Adherence to medication and medical plans. When it comes to medication, I know that a lot of people have differences of opinion. Some people are all for taking meds and some are completely against it, and they prefer natural solutions. I get it. Personally speaking, I believe there should be a balance. Meds serve a purpose. I personally don't believe that that someone should be on meds for the rest of their life if they can help it. I prefer natural solutions, but I'm not opposed to medication. I believe that we've been given wisdoms. There is science that can help us to turn things around, and that we shouldn't ignore science. I think we should pay attention and learn as much as we can so that we can make informed decisions regardless. I mean, if you want to go completely natural, I mean, there's a place for that. If you want to try certain meds, I believe there's a place for that. But again, personally speaking, I'm not giving anybody any medical advice here. I'm not a physician. I'm not a scientist. So again, this is all personal and my personal anecdote, my personal experience. I didn't want to remain on diabetes medication, high blood pressure medication, and cholesterol medication long term. I remember coming from seeing my doctor, and I saw on the medical notes, prescription long-term medication. So that didn't sit well with me because it was like, are you saying that I'm going to be on meds for the rest of my life? Now, had I not made any changes to my health, had I not made any changes to my lifestyle, I could have very well been on meds for the rest of my life. But folks, there was something in me that said, no, Oscar, it's time to change. Now, listen, I did listen to my doctor's orders and followed the medication plan until my physician finally completely cleared me of having to take all meds. It was a weaning process. It didn't happen overnight. I didn't go in and just was like, okay, doc, I don't want any medication. That's it. Just put me on a regimen that doesn't include medication. No, I listened. I used wisdom and I exercised understanding so that I was able to at least make an informed decision about my health. I was able to come off meds because I made the necessary changes to my lifestyle. It took time. The weaning process, again, didn't happen overnight. It took time. Meds did play a role in helping to stabilize my system, especially in the months immediately following my time in the hospital. But again, I chose not to rely on meds exclusively to reverse type 2 diabetes and achieve better health in my situation. So let's not forget the importance of medication and adhering to the medical advice that you're given by your doctor. Now, when you go to your physician or you go to urgent care or you go wherever and they give you advice, it's okay to be honest and say, hey, look, I don't want to be on meds longer than I have to. So give me some education, give me some understanding. And listen, it does behoove us to learn for ourselves what the insulin injection, what is it supposed to do? Learn about your diabetes medication. So do your research, folks. Learn about the importance of medical adherence, okay? Because proper medication and adhering to a plan could be the thing that helps you to at least stabilize your body and get it in a better position to make those lifestyle changes that are going to be long term. After all, when it comes to living the diabetes lifestyle, we have to be smart and we have to make educated decisions. Medications prescribed by healthcare providers may help to manage blood sugar levels and prevent certain complications, especially complications that seem to be getting worse. You want to get to a point where it's like, okay, let's slow down this process so I can be in a better position to turn things around. And again, I do understand that sticking to a health plan can be a challenge for some folks due to rising costs of medications and even some side effects and other factors. I mean, I experienced some side effects when I was on a certain diabetes medication, but I talked to my physician about it and he changed my prescription and things got better, much better. And I still was working on my plan to get off meds but the plan actually wasn't just to get off meds. It was actually to turn my health around and reverse type 2 diabetes. But regardless, I don't want you to be afraid to communicate openly with your physician or your local clinic about your concerns, including any difficulties you may be having with your medication. Okay. Also, for those of you all who may not know it, there are diabetes educators that can also give you some advice on managing type 2 diabetes and managing your meds and so forth. So just kind of keep all of that in mind. And again, don't be afraid, folks, to communicate. Don't be afraid to do what you need to do to turn your health around. Okay, folks, if I can do it, you can too. Now, let's move on to the fifth area when it comes to living healthy and positioning yourself to achieve better health. Number 5, cultural factors and social support. We're all in this together, folks, and it's essential to have the support you need to turn your health around. I know it. I know what it is to feel like, you're going at it alone, but you're not in this by yourself. It may feel like it. You may not have the support of those closest to you, but there's an entire community of folks who are going through the exact same thing that you're going through, and they can be a big support. I mean, there's Facebook groups. I have a Facebook group community that I've started. You can check that out. There's local community groups that you can join that can help you along your personal journey. Understanding cultural factors that affect healthcare choices is crucial for managing diabetes within any ethnic group. Generally speaking, it is a fact that among the African American community here in the U.S. and other communities of color, there has been a history of mistrust in the healthcare system due to discrimination and socioeconomic disparities, which limit access to adequate healthcare. All that being said, yeah, I know a lot of us may not even trust the healthcare profession. Because of history, we think like, man, you know what? Maybe they're just experimenting on Black folks and people of color. And, we've experienced a lot when it comes to our community and healthcare. But there are physicians who are culturally sensitive to the concerns that people of color may have when it comes to healthcare. That's why building a support system within communities of color and seeking culturally competent healthcare providers can help address these challenges. So don't stay away from the doctor because you're like, nah, they're all trying to get us Black folks and Hispanic folks and so forth and lower income communities. I mean, listen, as far as I'm concerned, folks, my health is a gift. I've been given this life for a reason. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to educate myself, to learn about foods, to learn about the things that we're putting in our bodies. Because listen, folks, I needed to turn my health around when I was sick. I almost died, folks. So I didn't have time to play around and waste time worrying about this or that. I needed to educate myself. I needed not to be afraid of going to the doctor. There's nothing wrong with going to the doctor, folks. There's nothing wrong with going to the local clinic to get more education. You can go online, Google information, educate yourself. I think a lot of people are fearful because of what they lack in knowledge. They're fearful because they lack knowledge. So the key is to increase your knowledge, increase your understanding. So folks, regardless of your race or cultural background, it is important to recognize that diabetes is a serious global health concern that affects people from all walks of life. It affects people of color, Hispanic, Indian, Asian, white, Samoans. It affects all kinds of people. Diabetes, again, like I said at the top of the show, is not out there playing favorites and saying, hey, I'm just going to attack the African-American community. I'm going after Hispanics. I'm going after the Asian community, the East Asian community. I'm only going after this group or that group. No, we're talking about what's going on metabolically in our bodies, regardless of our race. So by understanding the risk factors, making positive lifestyle changes, prioritizing a balanced daily diet, staying physically active, and making appropriate healthcare choices, it is possible to manage diabetes effectively and win back your health. So my friends, keep working on those lifestyle changes. And remember, your journey towards better health is well within reach. I don't care where you are on the planet. You can turn your life around. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with me, your host, Oscar Camejo. I'll catch you next time, folks. And as always, stay focused, keep moving, never go back, leap forward, bounce back because you can, my friend. And above all else, trust God. You got this. I believe in you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Beating Diabetes Lifestyle Podcast with Oscar Camejo. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As a reminder, this podcast is intended for motivational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional care by a physician or other healthcare professional or qualified fitness instructor. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or professional advice or services. If you're looking for help on your journey, seek a qualified medical practitioner. It's important that you utilize someone who is a trained, licensed healthcare professional who can help you on your journey toward good health.